Hello, Profit Hackers. I'm Jeremy Lott, the Chief Visionary for Foundation Accounting and Consulting. I owned a construction company for about 15 years before making a change to accounting because my accountants sucked. My goals are to simplify accounting for construction company owners, fuel your profits, level up your cash flow, and help you grow in a financially responsible way. So let's go. Hello, Profit Hackers, and welcome back to the Contractors Profit Hack Show. I'm Jeremy with Foundation Accounting and Consulting, and I have my good friend Michael Glassford with Legal Inc. Estate Planning, as you can see back here, visiting with us today. Michael has become one of my really, really good friends.
I'm sorry.
He has a really awesome background and story and a lot of different experiences with different areas of law and with different facets of life. Michael is a guy that I look up to a ton because he is very full of love and is always looking to help people. And I just love that about him. And that's a little odd for a lawyer.
Yes, we have to check our souls at law school, and I stole mine out of the cloak closet.
There you go. So, Michael, you did your undergrad at BYU, right?
Yes, I did.
What was your major?
It was English literature, so absolutely unemployable.
And then where did you do law school at BYU as well?
No, I was going to work in the Midwest in Missouri, so I looked for schools in that area, and I ended up going to a school I'd never heard of called Washburn University.
Okay.
In Kansas.
In Kansas.
So it was near proximity. There aren't too many schools that way, and it turned out to be fantastic.
Yeah, awesome. There's no place like home, right?
That's right.
Awesome. So, Michael, I've developed a great professional relationship with him as well as personal. And I've been very impressed with the work that he does. I have a question because pretty much every estate lawyer I've come across also does business. Mm-hmm. What from an outsider that looks like two separate things. How do they mesh together? Why is it that so many estate lawyers also do business law?
Because they're really two gears in the same mechanism. You know, you've got your business and you've got your family personal assets. And if you're in business, you know, they should seamlessly work together. And I can't plan your estate if I don't know what your business affairs are. And a lot of estate planning is asset protection or at least creating liability protection. And so they kind of do go hand in hand.
Okay. Awesome. So, obviously, the majority of our listeners are contractors. So, what I think would be super helpful is if they might have some action steps they can take away from this. And of course, just so you know right up front, the action step is to contact Michael and have him help you with your trust, your estate, your business, because there's nobody better. He's fantastic. So just so you know right up front, that is your action step after listening to this.
You have one job.
One job. That's all. So you like to reference movies a lot in your content.
I do.
Tell me a little bit about that and how you started down that path.
So I'm a child of the 80s, and my brother and I if we were, this was before emoticons and like those little things, and if we were going to share an emotion, we shared it through movie quotes. And so it's always just very natural to liken a movie quote to an experience, or and drove our family crazy. It drives our wives crazy when we get together. But somewhere along the path, I said, this estate planning stuff can be kind of technical, and especially when you mix it in with business planning. And so why not liken it to movies that people are aware of, that are they're familiar with, and then that makes more sense. Like we don't have to dumb it down. We can just liken it to something that we're familiar with, and now we have a common ground.
Yeah.
And it's way more fun.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. I also like using stories a lot with my content, because accounting is not exactly exciting.
So all that time I watched TV growing up, and my mom said I was rotting my brain. I was just training for my profession.
There you go. I love it. That's awesome. So I've seen Goonies, Star Wars, Die Hard, Top Gun. Night and Day was another one that you did that I loved. The With Me, Without Me. That was great.
With me. Mm-hmm. Subliminal.
What are some of the favorite connections you've been able to make between law and movies?
So what I've loved is that there are connections in any movie, and because they're real life stories, or they're emotions that connect with real life things.
Yeah,
I can take I've done estate planning according to Ron Swanson. That was a little misogynist. But I've done estate planning according to Princess Bride. We have a friend that doesn't like a certain animal, sloths. And I did a whole presentation on estate planning principles based on sloths. And she cringed the whole time, but I enjoyed it.
That's fantastic. I love it.
That all started, in giving presentations to networking groups, and, how many times can you get up and talk about wills and trusts? And so I just started doing those comparisons, and that's what actually led to my social media campaigns.
Oh, okay.
And I'm written, whatever you want to say, a book, and, every chapter is a different movie comparing, to different principles of estate planning.
Oh, cool.
So that's coming soon.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome. That's exciting.
I mean, it's about time I write a book about what I actually do. I have books about pirates and about, family law that I used to practice, but nothing on estate planning yet.
Yeah. Gotcha. So your tagline is,
it's your life.
It's your life. It's your story. Make it a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think that you illustrate that perfectly with your lifestyle that you've chosen, with the travel that you do, with your farm in Missouri, all of those kind of things. Tell me a little bit more about why you're passionate about that tagline.
Because when you approach estate planning, the very first thing that you get is, it's a scary topic, or we don't want to think about it because it's about death. It's about our mortality. We have to face, that mirror and never-ending story that shows us our inner self. And that's just really scary. That's not estate planning. Estate planning, that's one day. That's your death day. And we're not Klingons and want to die well. I mean, if you are, that's cool. I salute you. But we have tens of thousands of living days, and why not use this planning, this vehicle, to protect and preserve and grow your assets during those days? We'll be ready for the death day. And so I like to change the narrative and focus on that. My message is focused on that. It's your life, it's your story. You're the author of your story, and everything just circles around my writing, my love for writing. And teaching people that, it is completely up to you on how you create your life and the systems and processes that you put around to protect it. And I have a favorite Star Trek analogy, actually. So, Jeremy, who's your favorite character from Star Trek?
Oh, probably Worf.
Worf? It's
Yeah.
a good one. I like Worf. But mine is the computer.
Okay.
Because the computer is in charge of the shields.
Uh-huh.
And without the shields, they go into space and they suffocate and die. There's no show. And without the shields, they don't survive a Klingon attack. The shields allow them to feel confident to explore their own space.
Yeah.
And that's estate planning, creating this shield around your life to go out and do the next thing. Have that vacation, try that new business, invest in that new company, because you have the confidence that you are prepared and you can go out and do that thing, just like they had in the shield in the show.
Yeah. Awesome. Love it. So there's a lot of business owners out there.
There are.
And a lot of them are not experiencing life to the fullest. What are some things that you do to make your story priority in your life and be able to go on vacation or buy a farm or whatever?
Well, it comes back to writing. So when I write, and there's several techniques on how to write, but
Yeah.
there's either an outliner or a pantser, writing by the seat of their pants. I'm kind of somewhere in between. And when I write, I decide how many chapters are going to be in the book, and then I decide who are the main characters that we're going to be focusing on in that chapter, and maybe I'll write a sentence or two about the action that's going to be taking place in that chapter. So I have a general outline, a structure to, create what I want to make. And I have an idea of where I want to go. I don't know how I'm going to get there. Most of the time my characters surprise me. I have like psychotic breaks and they tell me I'm writing it wrong. And I would never do that. And so I go back and rewrite it. But when you apply that to life, it's the same principle. It's putting the structures and systems in place so that, I have these things in place now. So what do I want to achieve? Do I want to achieve a 4-day work week? Do I want to achieve, distance between, work and home? When I work at home, that's a difficult thing. Do I want to go on those vacations? What are important to me? Do I want to pursue life dreams? It was never a life dream of mine to own a hobby farm. I married into that, but quickly found that, it's very rewarding and very, cathartic in many ways. And so absolutely love it.
And in some ways it's like another shield.
It is. And I found that you just, you have to just love what you're doing, and it's easier to feel at ease when everything else is in place.
Yeah.
When your back's against the wall, you're not going to make the best decisions. But when your back's against the wall and you've already made the decisions of what you're going to do when that happens, now you just take the next step.
Right. Awesome. So can we jump into some estate law
Sure.
stuff?
And now comes the boring part of the interview.
You can all go to sleep now. No. So when it comes to estate law, people, business owners, and I'm sure many of my listeners, put off a trust or any kind of planning.
Mm-hmm.
From your experience, what are the main reasons that people put that off?
So besides the facing your mortality, the three biggest limiting beliefs to getting a trust is first that they think that they're not for them, that they haven't acquired enough assets, they're not rich enough.
Yeah.
They think that they're not old enough, or that's a later in life thing, and then they think that it's cost prohibitive. It's going to be very expensive, and I can't justify paying for that right now in this season of my life. And so those are the things that I talk often about with clients. We're going to go through all three of those things and kind of just knock those down as limiting beliefs and then say, okay, what's stopping you now? And I have this really horrible analogy. You remember radio shows when you were caller number 9?
Yeah.
And you could win like an all-inclusive trip to Vegas.
Right.
And maybe a car comes with that, right? And so I win. I'm caller number 9, and I'm so excited, like in Mr. Bean style. I run to Las Vegas and buy the car on the Strip. And people are like, Michael, that is the stupidest story I've ever heard. I'm like, exactly. And that's how we approach estate planning. We think that we need to arrive in Richtown before we buy the vehicle that was designed to get us there. And then it just kind of turns it on its head and said, oh, I should do that sooner than later.
Yeah. That makes sense. I like that. That's great.
Feel free to steal it. It's fine.
Yeah. Gotcha. So, okay. I like those 3 things. Those are definitely things that I experience.
Yeah. And then we can walk through those. So the first one is, I don't have enough stuff. Well, trusts, when I have a conversation about assets, that's like the 5th or 6th question that I'm going to be asking the client.
Oh, really?
The first thing I'm asking is, what's your life look like? What's your family look like? Are you married? Do you have minor children? Is it a second or third marriage? Do you have children from previous relationships? Because that's going to be a big part of our planning and how we're going to take care of that.
Got it.
Estate planning, the first goal of estate planning is control. We're taking control back. We've given that control to the government in the fact that if we haven't done anything, then the government takes the captain's chair and they're in charge of everything, and we have to run everything through a judge. Yeah. So we're taking control back. We're avoiding that horrible, awful word probate, which just is the name of the court that the judge presides in for these kinds of matters. And when we've done an appropriate trust plan, now we don't have to go to court. A will is like, the card of Monopoly, go directly to jail. A will goes directly to court. People don't understand or realize that. We're just told, get a will, because we've been exposed to wills in movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
That's about 97% of all of our education on wills. But then you have to stop and ask yourself, why are wills prominent in stories? Because stories are drama. Drama makes it interesting. We like to watch other people experience drama and overcome. But we don't necessarily want to create that drama for our family.
Right.
And wills are dramatic because they have to go to court. We have to now pay money to hire an attorney. We have to go through the time. In Utah, it's about 6 to 18 months on average for an easy probate. And then it's the emotional cost of dealing with this new mechanism world when we've just lost someone that we kind of cared about.
Yeah.
And so emotion, time, and expense all kind of just wrapped into one. And then we get the surprises, the family rifts, the fights, because it just wasn't spelled out. And so everyone thinks, well, that should go to me. And I always hear parents, they say, well, my kids won't do that. And I say, well, how'd that work out for Adam and Eve? Like, we have a very long history of kids not doing what we thought they would do. And there's way too many probate attorneys that prove the fact that kids do fight. And so it's just the recipe for disaster. And that's the reason for trust, because a will goes directly to court. A trust circumnavigates it. We don't need to go that way because the structure, the mechanism is different. We don't need the judge's approval. We already have the system in place to, again, control those assets and make decisions about those assets without a third party, without the government being involved.
Gotcha.
So controls first. Second most is privacy, because we don't have to report, besides your income and your IRS reportings, we don't have to report these assets to a court. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of businesses that are centered around people passing away. The movie While You Were Sleeping, they were furniture salesmen and they went
Yeah.
and bought furniture from the obituaries.
Right.
That's a legitimate business centered around
Death.
probate court
Yeah.
because it's published in the paper and besides the auctions and the sales, these assets are public knowledge. With a trust, we keep that close to the chest. We don't have to report that to the world. So privacy and control, number one. Number two, and then number three, now we're going to start talking about asset protection and how we can not hide things so we can do bad acts, but to protect things from bad actors, and put ourselves in the best position to have those protections.
Yeah.
That only less than 40% of Americans actually have in place.
Yeah. So a will and a trust, you still need both, right?
So they're two competing actors and they want the spotlight. The will, we've already kind of described how it works. A trust is, this speaks to our business owners. A trust is an entity like an LLC or an incorporation. It's an entity, third-party entity that can own property in its name. And just like any business, it needs managers to run it. Right. I just don't start my business and it just works, unlike those YouTube commercials. It needs a manager. So we name you, and if you have a spouse, as the first managers. The fancy word is trustee. So the trust owns the property and you manage the property on behalf of the trust. And that sounds crazy and convoluted until I say, right now you're managing your own assets. You pay the mortgage, you vacuum the carpet, you mow the lawn. You are managing your assets on behalf of you. You shift that ownership to the trust, and now as a trustee, you're doing the same job managing the assets on behalf of the trust. So it doesn't make life more complicated. It's not am I going to mess this up? It's just life as usual, but we've shifted the foundation of ownership to have a long game, because when you pass away, or if you're incapacitated for some reason and it can't make those decisions, the trust still owns it. There's no death event. There's no triggered change of ownership. And in the trust, we've named backup trustees, successor trustees, backup managers that can continue to have the authority to invest it, to use it, to enjoy it, to sell it, whatever they choose, based on what you've dictated in the trust document. So we go beyond death, and we don't have to stop at Crazy Town, at Court Town. It's business as usual. So we have that time to mourn, to celebrate, to do the things that we want to do when we've lost somebody, and not worry, I've got to run and do all these things.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
And it's still a lot of things to do, but you have the authority. You're not going to hit any brick wall saying you can't do that.
Right. Okay. So obviously there are a lot of, plug and play templates out there. And we definitely do not want to go that direction, because your life is not the same as other people, and you've got to customize it to you specifically. But when you're working with people and you're putting together a trust, what are some of the things that you do based on that have become important in that process because of your life experiences and things that you've gone through in the past?
So when we're building the trust, it's an interview. We just want to find out, again, those simple things: married, kids. What does life look like? What life are you living now? What's your story look like? And then we start building around that. You mentioned you can download anything. You can go to .coms and get stuff. And one of the misnomers about trust is, and I hear it a lot, is, you're just going to sell me documents. And, why am I spending so much for a template? And the answer is, you're not. You might pay a .com money for a template, or you might download something for free. the template, the documents are a byproduct of the relationship.
Okay.
When you work with an attorney, you're paying for their time and their expertise to take all of the chunks, all of the legalese that are out there. If you want to call it a template or a boilerplate, that's fine. But we're going to take all of those things and put together the plan that fits your family, your life, your situation. We're going to do an analysis of your exposure, of your risk, of the potential liability that you could face. And then we're going to put together a plan that fits you. A lot of people will go out and watch a YouTube video about how they're building something in another state to do it in another state. And those can work, but I liken it to buying like the best Lamborghini you can buy, because everyone has a Lamborghini, so you got to have one, and it's a manual, and you don't know how to drive it.
Oh,
so people buy these vehicles, these estate plans that are so complex and so beyond them that it just sits. They don't use it, or they use it incorrectly, and then attorneys find ways to needle in and get assets because it wasn't properly managed, and that's when people get oversold, and it's just wrong. And so we spend a lot of time just creating the plan that fits for what they are now and for where they want to go, because we do want to build in growth. I won't say a lot of attorneys, but some attorneys bank on the fact that if I write a very structured, concrete plan that won't look or fit the family in 3 years, then they're going to have to come back and pay a lot more money to do it again. Yeah. I write my plans to last as long as possible, but also to be what the client needs.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So when it comes to estate planning, what sets you apart? What's different about the way that you do it from other estate attorneys? What is the reason people would come to you?
Well, it's like you started the show with. I approach it with a heart approach. A lot of the beginning of my career, I was a family attorney, a divorce attorney, and I really prided myself on helping people through that process. I said, I'm working with good people at their worst times in their life.
Yeah.
And so I led with my heart in those types of cases, and that translates into all the other law that I do. I want to make sure that we put together a plan today so you can avoid problems tomorrow. Not all attorneys are equal in that. Some attorneys relish the downloading documents because that means that they're going to be hired later to fix it. And fix-it law is always more expensive than preventative law. And so some attorneys just love that. There's a reason why they will give a free will away in some online program, or an attorney will offer a will for $100 because they're just putting a calling card in that folder that in 15, 20 years, the family's going to come back and they're going to make $20,000, $25,000 off of them. So it's not nefarious, but it's just kind of how it works. I don't want to see my clients again until we have to see each other. I want to make it so they have the right plan now, and for the foreseeable future, I always say take a selfie of your family, and when you no longer look like that, it's probably time to review it. But for some families, some businesses, life can look the same today and look the same for 5 years from now. They don't need to change anything unless there's a law change. But then some families, my life might look different next week. And again, if your life looks different, if something has happened, whether that's a law change or a family change, a death, a divorce, a birth, or a preference change, then we need to come back and reevaluate where we're at.
Yeah, awesome.
So my clients, I try to express to them that I'm part of the team, but only come when you need to, and then we want to give you the best. I'm not going to oversell you. When someone says how much is a trust, I think it's unethical for me to say, well, that's $5,000, because I don't know what kind of trust they need yet. That's like walking onto a car dealership and saying, how much is car?
Yeah.
And the car dealer scratches his head and he's like, well, do you want an SUV? Do you want a sports car? Like, what size is your family? What are you going to be doing with it? You know, how far are you driving? Is gas mileage important? Like, these are the kinds of questions that we need to flesh out when we're doing the estate planning.
Right.
And so I don't know how much car is until I know you a little bit better. And sometimes that's off-putting for people because they want to kick the tires and know that. And I think that question is actually leading them down a road of costing way more.
Yeah.
It pays to do your due diligence up front.
Yeah. What, I don't know if you can answer this based on what you just said. Is there like a range?
So attorneys, depending on their experience and you know, time in the field, you know, they all have a different hourly.
Yeah.
Some, you know, attorneys just starting out will charge $100, $200 an hour. More experienced attorneys could be $500-$600. You know, the New York attorneys are, you know, I don't even want to say what their hourly is. I try to work flat fees. I figure out what my hourly currently is and then build around how much time it's going to take.
Yeah.
But with my system, what I can say is traditionally, if you go into an office, you know, a brick and mortar attorney office, they spend a lot of money on the office. They have the big fancy bookshelves and the leather bound books that, you know, those sets of law books cost about 30, 40 grand, and you're paying for that as a client. You're going to spend 10 to 15 hours with the attorney. Say the hourly is 500. So if you spend 10 hours, that's a $5,000 trust. 6 hours, you know, just do the math. In my system, I went completely virtual right before COVID. Actually, in 2019, I made the full switch and gave up the office, and I don't have secretaries or paralegals anymore. And when people come and work with me because we're just meeting online in a Zoom room, I don't have the overhead. I don't have those expenses. And I've created systems and processes that what used to take me 10 hours in the law office, I can now do in 5. So when my clients come to me and they're getting the $5,000 trust, they're actually only paying $2,500 for it. But it takes a minute to explain that because it's not an apples to apples situation. Yeah. It's apples to oranges, because you can go online and pay $2,500, but I guarantee what you're downloading is not what I just wrote for you.
Right.
And so I can say that.
Okay. Awesome. Cool. So business law.
Mm-hmm.
Most business owners get it wrong.
Well, most business owners are doing the best they can.
Right.
And when they come to me, I really want to convey that message. I'm not here to judge you. Okay. I'm here to assess where you're at and give you options of how you could make that better, so that when someone else judges you, you don't lose your shirt.
Yeah.
Like, we're prejudging here. And so in the internet age, and it's so easy to get things done, and you go to the Facebook Oracle and say, I'm starting a business, and everyone says, don't pay an attorney. They're just robbing you. Just go online and do it for free. It only costs $27 to file it with the state. They're wrong. It's not $27. They never, they don't know what they're talking about when they get the filing fee wrong. But anyway, you can, and you can go. The process for filing your LLC is the same for you as it is for me. I'm going to use the same system.
Yeah.
And so people get the false sense of security that they can go on and push a couple buttons and spit out an LLC. The answer is yes. But what did you get? What did you do? How is that? What consequences, for what button you pushed? There's a tiny little disclaimer on each state window, when you file your LLC or your incorporation that says, please talk with an attorney before you do this.
Oh.
Because people are like, well, you can't mess up. Actually, you can mess up quite a bit.
Yeah.
You can. Are you going to choose a member managed or a manager managed LLC? What's the difference? Why does that matter? Are you going to make it perpetual? The state used to make you go get the EIN before you could finish the LLC filing. Now it doesn't do that. So what if you file your LLC and then go get the EIN and find out that there's another business somewhere in the country that has a similar name, and the IRS won't issue you an EIN for that?
Yeah.
And now you're stuck and like, oh shoot, now I have this entity that I can't report with. That was a recent change with Utah law, or with they just updated the website and that's gone. You know, they don't have you get the AIN before you finish. And people are running into that problem now because the IRS isn't state, it's federal. And so if there's a company out there that has a similar name, they're not going to issue an EIN for that.
Yeah.
That's a problem. Little things like that. And when it comes to starting a business, it's kind of like a car. Like you have your registration for the car and you have your title. So going online and doing that work with the state website is registering your business. You've announced to the world, I have a business and I'm responsible for it. But then there's other documents that need to be in place that make up your company or corporate book. And I'm going to talk in LLC language. So you have to have an operating agreement. You have to have your certificates of ownership. That's your stock. That's your title. That's proof that you own the business. And it's going to reference your ownership in the operating agreement as well. And it's no longer required, but minutes every year you're supposed to have a meeting with your company. You know, if you're a solo, then it's a meeting with yourself, by yourself, for yourself. It's a little schizophrenic. But you're supposed to record that meeting in writing. And it's no longer required as a statute rule anymore, but it's still best practice because when you have all those components in place and you find yourself in a court situation and where you have to prove that you own the business, that you have to prove that you're a legitimate business and you're not just a solopreneur and different rules apply to that, and you don't have that evidence, you can't prove anything. And the default is you lose. So when I work with a client, I'm doing all of those things. And then both in business and in estate planning, I really believe in access. You're driving down the road and you have that $1 million question. It's just burning in your mind, and how you decide it will depend on the next road you go down. And you're like, man, I could call Michael, but he's going to charge me $57.50 for that 15-minute phone call, and that's just irksome. So I'm not going to do it, and I'm just going to make the choice and oops, $10,000 mistake.
Yeah.
All of my clients, whether they're a business client or an estate client, they know that they can always call me, ask the question. If there's an answer, they get the answer. I'm not going to charge them for that. If there's a project, then we're going to do an analysis and say what we need to do, and I'll wrap a flat fee around that. But getting the answers to those burning questions to make the LLC or to make the estate a part of your daily portfolio is critical. And so I offer that as well to my clients. Now I tell them, the once in a while call, that's part of the job. If you're calling me every day, now you're taking time, and we'll probably have to bill you for that. But I'm not going to bill you until I tell you I'm going to bill you. So just keep asking, just abuse it until I tell you, okay, we're there. But that's really critical because so often, especially, if you're just a solo, you feel so isolated and you're like, I don't know where to turn. And so we turn to the worst possible place, Chat GPT. And my friends, attorneys love Chat GPT because when you use it and then now they're suing you, you will lose. They will win, and they will make a lot of money suing you. Mm-hmm. So again, you always have to ask, why aren't attorneys against ChatGPT, or why aren't attorneys against the downloads? Because those kinds of attorneys make a lot of money because you messed up.
Yeah. And so a lot of business owners out there know that you've got to create an LLC or a C Corp or whatever the entity is, because I want my business assets over here and my personal assets over here, and I don't want somebody that's coming after my business to be able to get my personal assets, mm-hmm. and someone that's coming after me personally to be able to get to my business assets.
Yep.
Right? But it's very easy to pierce the corporate veil without these things in place.
Well, number one is structure. Number two is administration. To have to have a great accountant to help you manage. I'll create the vehicle, but I bought the Chevy, and I don't call Chevy every week and say, how do I drive this?
Yeah.
Like, that's not Chevy's job. Like, the person sitting in the co-pilot is your accountant, it's your tax person, it's your financial advisor. It's a team, and people kind of overlook that. But when you said business assets here, personal assets here, it's more like business assets here, personal assets here. It's compounding, and when we do the structuring, we definitely want to create cellular division between those two things. But then we have to understand what limited liability is.
Yeah.
Like, what protections am I getting when I'm doing it right?
Uh-huh.
Because when a tort, that civil liability is upon us, we look at two things. What's the business we're suing, but who's the actor we're suing? So if I'm the actor and the business is being sued, like I caused the problem in the scope of business. So the actor is sued and the business is sued.
Yeah.
In that scenario, your personal assets are not protected because you're the actor. Where your personal assets are protected is if it's your partner or if it's your employee or even a 1099 contractor that's in the scope of your work. They're the actor. You are not named. They will name you personally in the lawsuit, but you can easily file a motion to dismiss against you personally.
Right.
Now your asset's protected. That's where we're limiting liability. But we can't limit ourselves from our own stupid. If we did the thing, we're online. So then we have to have backup systems to protect our personal assets if we are the actor.
Yeah.
But where a lot of LLCs fail is they don't understand that. And they're like, well, I have an LLC, so I'm protected. I'm golden, but they're not. Or they didn't do the administration right. They don't have all those documents in place. And, in the discovery process, when you're sued, you have so many days to give information to the other side. And the first thing that the other side asks for is your company book, which is your operation, your operating contract and everything else. And if you can't provide that, the very first thing I say to the judge is, if I'm the opposing counsel, is they didn't provide any evidence that they're actually an LLC. So they should be treated like a sole proprietor, and everything should be on the table. Even if it was a partner or it was an employee, now your personal assets are on the table.
Yeah.
And that's where people go, oh. And they don't tell you that on Facebook. They don't tell you that in ChatGPT.
Right.
That's just kind of like over here.
Right.
And that's where we run into problems.
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong on this. My understanding has been, when it comes to accounting as part of this process, commingling funds can also cause that same problem.
Yes. So that's the administration of it. So I've worked really hard to have these two cellularly divided entities, myself and my business. And you kind of think of it like the East India Trading Company, like they have 50 ships. And if one ship goes down in a storm, 49 are fine. And that's what we're working towards when we're doing this asset protection planning.
Yeah. Okay.
We want to make sure that if one goes down, it's not going to disrupt the rest.
Right.
But like you said, when we commingle, it's been a long day at the work, and I'm running to Walmart to pick up some groceries for the family, and I only have my business card on me, and I use my business card to buy the groceries, and that's a commingling. And so when me, the big bad attorney, is on the other side, and the client's suing you, we ask for all those financial records, and if I can find that one transaction, that's where I pierce the veil, and I'm now going after all your assets because you haven't kept things separate.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it's just an honest mistake. Like, this is the only card I have on me.
Right.
Ring it up.
Yeah.
That's where we run into problems.
Gotcha.
Systems and processes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So don't commingle funds.
Yes.
Stop it.
And
Have a business credit card and a personal credit
the
card.
phrase commingle sounds like, you're a bad person or you're fraudulent.
Yeah.
And it is that, but it's also that simple mistake.
Simple mistake.
Or just you weren't prepared, and so you made a quick error in judgment.
Yeah.
And, it can be costly.
Yeah.
Like, no, for most examples, like I'm a solopreneur. and I'm just so integrated in what I'm doing and I don't have employees, it's less important to me because they're going to get at me anyways. I'm the actor.
Yeah.
So it depends on how your business is set up and understanding,
Right.
how those things are moving in real time.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes good sense. So, action item here, as we've already mentioned.
So first action item with your business is just to do an evaluation.
Okay.
Reach out. It doesn't cost a lot to see what you have in place, to kind of say, you have this, great job. Let's add this, and this. And sometimes, if we'll do what you need to do to make sure that your company book is up to date. That means you might have to go back and write a couple of minutes from years past, and that's fine. You've had those meetings with yourself. You just didn't record them, and so you have to think about it and go back and, well, what did we talk about? What did we think about that day? We thought about our goals for the year, or we talked about our profit and loss with our accountant, or whatever the case may be. And so we can recreate those, but it's really stressful to try to recreate that when you got 180 days because someone's asked for discovery.
Yeah.
That's crunch time, and that's where mistakes are made.
Yeah, exactly.
So
and
so action one is just do an evaluation.
Yeah. So call Michael and get an evaluation.
Or any attorney, business attorney. There's a lot of attorneys that do all the things, and I'm not knocking them, but work with someone that works with this all the time.
Yeah. And just as a note for anybody out there who's listening, if you have these meetings for at least 4 hours a day in a foreign location, you can write it off on your taxes. 100%. It's a business trip. This is not tax advice, by the way. You need to make sure and check with your tax preparer. But that being said, it is something that you can definitely bring up to them and look into. So
to whet your appetite there too, because I'm not a tax, I'm not that guy. But you can also set it up where you rent your space out to yourself and write that expense off as well.
Yeah. The Augusta rule.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's for fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So last thing wanted to touch on here is the importance of contracts. What needs to go into them? Why are they important? I've always said that, when you meet with somebody, you go in thinking A, and they come in thinking B, and after talking together, you agree on C, and then when you both leave, if it's not written down what you agreed on, I'm still thinking A, and they're still thinking B, and it causes problems down the road. Mm-hmm. But what are some things that need to go into contracts? Some important things to consider when dealing with other people or different entities, those kind of things.
Yeah, I hear the complaint that long gone are the days we could just shake on it and call it good, and I'm like, that was always bad business, for the reason that you just shared. Yeah. People come to me and say, I need a bulletproof contract that will win every time in court, and I kind of scratch my head and I say, you want to take clients to court? That's not my goal when I start a relationship with a client. Right. How about we write a contract that is clear, transparent, sets out the expectations for everybody so we know exactly what's expected and what we're going to receive, so we never have to go to court.
Yeah.
And if we have to go to court, the contract will be fine to protect, what you need to defend. But that's not our first goal. And we don't want that kind of energy around, when you have that outlook, guess what kind of client you're going to attract? Clients that you're going to take to court. And that makes your life miserable. So stop it. Just don't do that. So for the first goal of a contract is to create an agreement between two parties while we still like each other. And then we're going to spell out, I'm capable of doing this. You're capable of paying for it. This is how it's going to happen. And this is what you're going to receive and when you're going to receive it. And this is what's going to happen if we do have a falling out, if things don't go the way that we want. Here are the rules of engagement. And now it's pretty clear. Do all contracts succeed? No. It takes two to tango. And then sometimes the client's just not going to be happy. But we're going to set you out in the best possible situation with a well-written contract to avoid all that. So again, everything I do is transactional to avoid problems later. Like sometimes the problems will just occur because you've just picked someone that likes to have drama in their life.
Yeah.
But for the most part, so that's step A for contracts. Step B is you can use your contract as a powerful tool in your business. A contract is like a book. The first thing that you think of when you think of a contract is like, oh, legalese and headache, right? So why don't we write the contract with some white space in it? That's easier to read. Make it a little bigger font. Makes it a couple more pages. But now they'll actually read the words when it's like that car dealer print in like so small you can't read it. Like they didn't. So you don't have a meeting of the minds. You have a future victim. So even in formatting and white space and how you put the contract together is important. But then you can use the contract if you have a monthly subscription service, or you have, schedule A, B, and C, and A gets you a little bit, B gets you more, and C, you can put those things in the contract. So as they're reading it, they'll be like, well, I came to you for A, but I'm really interested in C.
Yeah.
And you've just upsold them on a service that they didn't think about, but now they know they want, and you didn't say a word.
And I just want to say, This right here is magical. He wrote my contract that I use with my clients, and it lists out all the services that I provide, and then we just check which ones we're recommending.
And it's a powerful tool, especially in service providing for contractors. It just, again, depends on the situation. If it's a contract for the client or a contract for a sub, or, sub, not necessarily going to need to show all your wares, but it just depends on who you're writing the contract for. And we need to have those templates for the business, for the client, for the sub, for, okay, we're bringing in a partner. We need to write a contract for that. We need to update our operating agreement, maybe have a joint venture agreement, depending on the relationship that we're building with that person or company.
Yeah. Awesome.
So contracts are fun. And they really do. The name of the game is anytime there's a surprise and someone's back's against the wall, what are they going to do? They're going to fight. It's fight or flight. That movie Knives Out. It's a great example. So he decides that he's going to pull one over on his family and give $94 million. Actually, it's 40% less than $94 million because half of it went to 40% went to the government in the estate tax because he didn't have a trust and he was a dummy. So they weren't fighting over $94 million. They were fighting over do the math. But anyway. When they discovered at the reading of the will, in 22 years, I've never actually done a reading of the will because I think there's huge conflicts because you're not their client or they're not your client. You represent the estate. So you're reading the will and then they want answers and I really can't answer that. I'm not representing you. So those are just drama waiting to happen anyway. But in that movie, when they found out that everything was going to the home health worker and it wasn't going to the family, Jamie Lee Curtis gets up and she's like, we're not going to take that. We're the whatever their name is. Gosh darn it, right? It's fighting time.
Yeah.
But if they had known that dad hates us and he's going to give it to someone else, like there might be hurt feelings, but they already knew it. We've already de-escalated. We don't want to do that in a movie because we want to watch problems. But we want to do that in life. Like that would make a boring movie. Like I always say that Jane Austen wouldn't exist if there wasn't a proper estate planner in her life. All of her stories would just not happen. I mean, that's applicable to most stories. But anyway, we want to make sure that there's never a surprise, because when there's a missed expectation or a surprise like that, then we're just inviting conflict.
Yeah, got it. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here today. I know there's no way we can get all of your knowledge about this in one sitting by any means, as proven by your tons of valuable content that you've produced over the years. But let's kind of sum it up. Just kind of overall, estate law, business law. What are the key points you would want to emphasize, and the key action steps that someone should take?
Okay. And you actually asked the question earlier about like how my life experiences tie into this. And we'll kind of start there. I never want to take cooking advice from a skinny cook. I never want to take exercise advice from a fat, coach.
Yeah.
When you're doing these things, when you're working with accountants and attorneys, like, you want to see that they're actually living a life that they love, and that's encouraging. And so that's been very important to me, to kind of walk the walk and talk the talk.
Yeah.
And so you alluded to my farm. We invested in an 84-acre hobby farm 4 years ago, and we're kind of just living our best life. We're doing this really crazy thing. My wife went and learned how to drive oxen, and now we have a draft horse team, and we're about to start doing events on the farm. Come and learn how to survive or garden or pick flowers, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. When you're interviewing your professional, are they happy? Are they living, is the advice they're giving you like happiness in their life?
Yeah.
And if they're not, then you might want to consider that. So that's like the foundation. Like, who are you taking advice from?
Yes.
And then, the action steps are, just get over that hump. It's not just for rich people. It's for everybody. It's not prohibitive. There are attorneys like me out there that have worked really hard to make it accessible to everyone that needs it. And then just take the next step and make the appointment, because I've designed it so it's like most of my clients, by the time we're done with our first meeting, they're like, okay, what do I got to do now? I'm like, you've done it all. Like, you did your part.
Oh, cool.
Now it's my part.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back to you. And they're kind of taken aback. They're like, I thought this was going to be painful. I thought I was going to be filling out financial statements and this, that, and the other. I'm like, no. As long as I have an idea of your holdings, and now we do, I can plan for what you need, and you don't need to worry about it. You don't need to see the math behind the curtain. If you want to, I'll pull the curtain back and show you, and you'll hate me. I'm here to make your life easier and get those things in place, both for estate planning and for business. So the first action step is just to make the call. And for the estate plan, it's a 20-minute free Zoom. For the business, I charge a little bit because you're taking time and I'm teaching you something. But it's still pretty nominal to just get those initial questions answered. And then I'll have an action plan for you. We need to do this, this, and this. And a lot of attorneys will say, we need to do it all right now. And I don't feel that way. I think that's overwhelming for you. So let's focus on the trust first. And then,
Pieces,
you have minor children. Let's do something that we haven't talked about today, but it's called child protection planning. And I would say 80% of the attorneys out there don't even know about it. It's still fairly new. When we say new in the law, it could be 6 months or it could be 10 years. It's like a 10-year new thing. I had practiced for almost 2 decades before I knew anything about it.
Really?
We just weren't taught that in law school. And it's a way to make sure that, from the time the kids are with a babysitter to the time that there's a hearing for long-term guardianship to beyond, that there's never an opportunity for the state to come in and take custody or the wrong guardian to come in and fight for custody.
Yeah.
We just eliminate that. That's child protection plan. But we don't have to do it at the same time. And then we look at your businesses, and if we need to do the assessment and add some things onto that, we'll do that in steps. And that's part of the analysis. What's the most exposure you have right now? oh, it's your business. Let's work on that first. Then we'll
Yeah.
come back to your estate. Or, oh, it's your kids. You know, you do a lot of traveling. So let's make sure your kids are safe first and then do the other things. So it just depends on what you present. So yeah, just have the conversation and then we'll go down the right road.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate you being here today.
Thanks for inviting me.
You do make law a lot more entertaining than it is, but
It's like too short to be dull, right?
right, yeah. You have a lawyer and an accountant here, and you've made it this far in this episode.
Congratulations.
So yeah,
Go get yourself a swig.
exactly. So thanks everybody for listening. And again, I just want to say Michael's a fantastic person. He leads with his heart. That's very apparent right up front. That's why he's so popular, and why his business is doing well. So
And you can come to my website. It's www.legallifeplan.com.
okay,
Creative way of saying trusts or business plans. Or I'm all over Facebook. So you can always find me there and DM me. This is something I didn't expect. Like 97% of my clients DM me
really?
before they call me
Through like Messenger?
through Messenger.
Really?
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a new world.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. All right. Awesome. So thanks for listening, and call Michael, set up an appointment, and pick his brain, see what you can learn and how he might be able to help you. But thank you very much. I certainly appreciate you as a listener, and hope this has been valuable for you. Thanks. Thanks for listening. If you found this episode helpful, please like and subscribe for weekly episodes to help you fuel your profit, level up your cash flow, and finance your growth. Until next time, go enjoy some green M&Ms and protect that cash.